In this video, I accidentally misgendered Kris Tyson a couple times. This was not intentional. I'm just stupid and get things mixed up sometimes. Thanks for understanding and enjoy the video.
MrBeast has one of, if not the best reputation on YouTube. With all the generously amazing acts he has done while keeping a very humble personality, he is simply impossible to hate. But there's one person and one person only who lately has been getting in the way of this perfect reputation, and that is Kris Tyson. Kris Tyson has become one of the most controversial members of the MrBeast crew to the point where they have gone fired from the group. From being one of the fan favorites to now being exposed as a pedophile. However, this has not been the only nightmare lately for MrBeast, as Kris being exposed seems to have caused a domino effect that is leading to the downfall of MrBeast's entire brand. Kris only seems to be the beginning of this giant puzzle. How did we get here so fast? Let's cut the bullshit and get right into it. Now, Kris and Jimmy go back, way back. Becoming friends in high school and bonding over YouTube, Kris would work on the channel with MrBeast back when he simply just had a cheap laptop and big dreams. And as we know, Jimmy would become one of the biggest YouTubers in history. Kris was in almost every single video and always had something to add to it. It's almost weird to think of the channel without him. He was the silly, comedic relief of the channel that helped it give personality. He became a staple in the MrBeast brand and even co-hosted the Beast Reaction channel with Jimmy, which ended up becoming the most subscribed to reaction channel. And as a person, he was your average truck-loving, beer-drinking country boy who got a wife and a kid, which is why it was so shocking to the world when it was revealed that he was trans. Now, this news wasn't exactly so sudden though. Kris was giving lots of hints beforehand. Over time, Kris posted less and less with their wife and started showing lots of more feminine traits like painting their nails and wearing more feminine clothing. It became more and more obvious every single time, and the fans were very quick to point it out. Kris would soon confirm the divorce with their wife, but nothing more was added at the time, but still had some questions left unanswered. But it was undeniable when Kris appeared at the Kids' Choice Awards with long hair, makeup, a purse, and very, very feminine clothing. And on Twitter, Kris confirmed that they were going under medical treatment to transition to a woman. Now, this did receive lots of mixed reactions at the time. Now, fellow MrBeast crew members like Jimmy and Carl were very supportive, but some of the fans were very, very critical. Now, at the end of the day, Kris is a grown adult. Whatever they want to do with their body is their decision. But one of the biggest criticisms for this whole thing was that by transitioning to a woman, Kris was somehow abandoning their child. However, there was really nothing that presented the fact that Kris was abandoning their child or leaving them behind in any type of way. When someone tweeted, "There goes a father figure the kid won't ever look up to," Kris responded with, "This is more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film." Yet somehow this narrative still circled a lot. Now, when popular streamer NickMercs posted something that was pretty controversial about trans people, Kris responded to it in a jokingly way. Under that exact post, NickMercs responded with, "You should be ashamed of yourself, leaving behind your wife and child to play pretend. One day you'll wake up and realize what you've done." Now, former MrBeast member Jake the Viking reposted this tweet, captioning it, "Let him know." Now, again, there was no proof that Kris was a neglectful parent in any way. Jimmy responded to post claiming this with, "Ava is literally always with her kid and doesn't even go on shoots to spend more time with him. Tuckman is always smiling, not sure why this rumor is a thing." Yet the internet and tons of MrBeast fans seem to be very unsupportive of the decision. Anytime MrBeast posted a picture with Kris on Instagram, the top comments were always hate comments at Kris. It seemed like the entire internet was going after them. Around the time this was happening, SunnyV2 made a video talking about how Kris's transition could be a nightmare for the MrBeast brand. He states that in this situation, Jimmy has really no choice but to accept Kris's transition. If he fires Kris, he's canceled. If he keeps Kris in the videos, it'll hurt the brand. And the only way that Kris can leave the MrBeast crew without it hurting the brand in any type of way is to voluntarily leave. This video was not responded to very well, because he was essentially trying to argue the fact that one of the biggest channels in the world will start to see a decrease in views just because one of the members was transgender. And lots of creators felt that this was completely ridiculous. Jimmy himself even responded to the whole video. "Yeah, this is getting absurd. Kris isn't my nightmare, he's my fucking friend and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off." This caused a pretty decent amount of people to lose respect for SunnyV2, and he even had to change the title of the video to not be as controversial. But a year later, many of those people would come around and see that he was kind of, sort of, right. Now, in the middle of working on this video, I noticed that someone was using my credit card to buy stuff online. I don't know how they got it, but now I'm out $36 because of it. I had to learn the hard way to be more protective of my personal info, otherwise this would not have happened. Now, if it were up to me, I know I'd be able to keep my personal information safe. But it's not always up to us because big companies can't always keep our data safe. Recently, AT&T revealed that all of their customers' calls and text records were exposed in a giant data breach. And it hasn't even been a few months since they admitted that 70 million users' information were posted onto the dark web. The log also contains a record of every single number that every AT&T customer called or texted. So even if you don't use AT&T, if someone texted you who did, then your number was also exposed. So what can you do to protect yourself? Me personally, I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura will immediately alert me if my phone number or any personal information has been compromised. And they give me fast fraud alerts if anyone tries to access my bank info or credit card information. Aura does so much more to keep me and my family safe too. I also get things like transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, parental controls, and identity theft insurance. I'm not leaving myself or my family vulnerable to data breaches. And if you don't want to either, then go to my link shown right here and get your first 2 weeks free. Also linked below in the description. Thanks, Aura. Lots of things lately have been coming up from Kris's past, and they are not very good. Each discovery was worse and worse than the last. It seems like in the span of 24 hours, all of Kris's disgusting past behaviors were exposed to the world. An old tweet resurfaced of an art piece that he purchased from YouTuber Shadman. Now, Shadman was a very, very infamous artist on YouTube who created very interesting artwork. What he drew was in the genre of lolly, which is essentially animated children drawn in a very, very sexual manner. This delves into the realm of CP, and when I say CP, I'm not talking about cheese pizza. One of the worst things that he did was making a very, very explicit drawing of Keemstar's 8-year-old daughter. And Kris posted a piece of artwork from this person and tagged him. In fact, in one of MrBeast's videos, you can actually see the artwork hung up in Kris's house on the wall. It's pretty weird to just casually have that sitting on the wall in the video. There was also a clip from one of Kris's streams that resurfaced where he accidentally went on Shadman's site and then gave it a shout out. Keep in mind, Shadman's website has the artwork of these young animated girls drawn in a very inappropriate manner. It's pretty weird that you would just somehow accidentally stumble upon that site. And there's just more and more tweets that resurfaced that got worse and worse. One resurfaced where he says, "Nothing gets my knob cranking like some lolly," essentially saying that he gets excited to lolly. Now, you could argue that he's making some very dark, weird, messed up joke on here, as much of his personality had that meme humor back in the day. But considering he quite literally purchased lolly, this is pretty hard to interpret as a joke. There was another one that resurfaced where he commented under a post of the two main characters from Gravity Falls kissing and getting pretty dirty. Keep in mind, these characters are siblings and 12 years old. Kris commented, "They're twins, so at that point, it's just masturbation, right?" Again, could be a joke, but not very funny in the context of everything. 1 year later, he responded to another post of Violet from The Incredibles, who, again, is a teenager, and Kris commented under it, "Low-key she cute." But possibly the worst one that was found was where he responded to another post saying, "That bitch looked good for a 4-year-old." Now, considering the thing he responded to was deleted, I'm not sure what it was, but even without the context, there's absolutely no way saying something like that is reasonable. Now, obviously trying to dig up someone's past behavior and finding these weird edgy jokes is not really enough to justify edgy behavior, but considering he purchased this very disgusting artwork from this disgusting artist, it doesn't look very good. But this is probably the least worst thing that surfaced from Kris's past, because it gets oh so worse. Because very soon after, Kris was exposed for having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old who at one point was actually working on the MrBeast channel. Now, the 13-year-old in question, Lava GS, initially met Kris by winning a giant tournament in a Minecraft video on the MrBeast gaming channel. He won the competition and got a signed knife directly from Jimmy, where he DM'd him on Twitter in order to receive the prize. Kris and Lava then met through Discord, where they started to chat pretty often. Now, Kris is 20 at this time, and Lava is, again, 13. Kris and Lava would start to interact on Twitter together pretty suspiciously. Kris would make very sexual remarks to Lava, calling him daddy, and also mentioning a lot of things like hentai addiction. Now, you can argue that, again, it's just edgy humor and he's just talking to the bros like that, but a 20-year-old man talking to a random 13-year-old kid like that on on the internet is very, very inappropriate. There is no reason why an adult like that should be having such direct one-on-one interactions with a middle schooler and talk to them like that. It's not excusable. Now, much of this was revealed by the YouTuber Prism42, who exposed the entire thing piece by piece on his channel.
Here he is. I'm your first Patreon, Big Boy, which he's calling him Big Boy. And he shows that he donated some money. He donated like $1 or something. So it's not enough to meet the goal. And he says, but not $5. Pathetic. Just kidding, kissy face.
Now this is weird, especially telling your kid, who is probably around 14 or 15 years old at this point, to donate $5 so that you can release pictures of your schlong. It's pretty weird. Like, there's no way around it. The jokes are not jokes anymore. Now, when Lava was 14, Kris made him the moderator of their Discord server. In this server, Kris made much more inappropriate remarks. The Discord also had Carl from the MrBeast crew. And on top of this, Kris also exchanged very weird messages via Snapchat, including this one saying "coming for America." I don't think that needs further explanation. But what genuinely crossed the line was when Lava rented a camper van and met up physically with Kris and Carl. Now, Lava was 16 years old at this time, so old enough to drive. And on his Instagram, Lava posted the pictures of him meeting up with Kris and Carl, posting the entire evidence for the world to see. Now, Kris was 23 at this time, and Lava is, again, 16 years old. Still underage. Meeting up with an underage child in a secluded area as a grown adult is one of the most suspicious things that you can do. Now, in public is one thing, but in a secluded area like the desert or the woods is screaming a criminal intent. What possible reason could Kris have to be meeting with a teenager in private, as well as Carl? Kris has confirmed that they are bisexual all the way back in 2020, so it's very reasonable to believe that there are bad intentions here. Now, it's not confirmed that Kris did anything physically to Lava, but that does not excuse any of the activity that's going on here. This is extremely serious shit. Kris Tyson privately met up with an underage boy and has been in contact with this boy since he was 13. The proof is out there. There's no denying this. Now, at the time of this coming to light, Lava was very quick to address it on Twitter, but stated that nothing really bad happened and was completely defending Kris. These videos are massive lies twisting the truth. Ava never did anything wrong and just made a few edgy jokes. I was never exploited or taken advantage of. Can you do me a favor and comment on these videos and tell them to stop spreading lies? The situation takes away from children who are being actively exploited every day online. I am not a victim of anything being claimed in these videos or at all. And while this may seem like proof that Kris really did not do anything wrong, it doesn't really prove anything at all. Usually victims of grooming are not really aware that they are victims at all. Grooming is usually a process that involves building strong emotional bonds with people that are very vulnerable so that they can manipulate them and use them. So from Lava's standpoint, while it may seem like he was simply not doing anything wrong, it also could be a very strong chance that Kris was very successful with their dark intentions. It also may be hard to speak out against someone who was involved with the biggest channel in YouTube history. No one wants to be known or marked as a victim of something like that. And Lava noticeably changed his bio to remove any affiliation for working with MrBeast. Now, at the time of this video, Lava is only 20. So if something truly did happen that was bad, then hopefully Lava can really properly process it in the future. But this wasn't just it though, it gets worse. At the time this broke out, people started to uncover lots of other things from Kris's past that only further fueled this behavior. An old video resurfaced of Kris talking about Jeanette McCurdy being a victim of revenge porn. Now, if you don't know what revenge porn is, it's when someone leaks very explicit pictures of someone as a way to get back at them. Jeanette McCurdy's ex-boyfriend leaked these very explicit pictures at the time, and Kris made a video about it and shared the link to these pictures.
How's it going, you guys? So recently everybody's been hearing about the Jeanette McCurdy leak of her photo. What the story is, she sent pictures to her boyfriend, her now ex-boyfriend, and he leaked them out, and she is a very popular Nickelodeon star on the show iCarly, and probably be seen as the pulling of the show. It'll probably be taken off the air. Second off, you'll probably see the photos get taken down at some point tonight, maybe tomorrow, because Nickelodeon has that kind of power. But the link's in the description if you want to see them. I mean, I'm not endorsing people to go look at somebody else's private business, but I know that you know, people might want to see them, so it's there if you want it.
Saying I don't endorse looking at them and then quite literally providing the link to look at them is weird. There's no need to contribute to the spread of someone's privacy being completely violated. If you guys have seen my video on Jeanette McCurdy, you already know just how shitty her life is. But it gets even worse, because it was revealed that Kris was inappropriately messaging another underage person over Snapchat, who by the way was 14 years old. Some of these messages were very flirtatious, such as calling them daddy and sending them kissing emojis. At this point, it's not a joke. This is some downright disgusting behavior that is happening. There is no reason for a grown man to be sending someone messages privately on Snapchat, especially weird messages like this. And there were also some very disturbing things being said through the Discord of which this person was a part of.
I know, dude, I would inside of that egg and then watch her eat it and then watch her have sex with another man while she comments about how my can never satisfy her. He gets cancer in the mouth.
Okay. I gotta say that is one of the not good places.
I hope he goes his entire life not smoking a single cigarette, and then when he gets 80, he just gets with some dude with some cancer and he shoves it in his mouth and his mouth cancer.
Listen, it's fine to say messed up stuff like that all the time with the boys. I mean, I do it too. But in front of random kids, it's just weird. It's not over though, because another person pretty soon after also came forward and revealed that Kris Tyson preyed on them as well.
Kris Tyson from MrBeast used me, manipulated me, and did very inappropriate things with me while I was about 15 years old.
This person was actually friends of Lava and actually worked for Kris by working on their Twitch streams and moderating them. He initially met Kris through Twitter, and together he and Lava were a part of a Discord server. On top of not paying them for their work, Kris constantly had conversations with these kids that were very sexual, such as calling them daddy and even sending them prawn links.
This turned into us having lots of private conversations with Kris and playing video games with him for hours on end. Not only did we do a lot of unpaid work for him that he promised he would pay us for, he would also frequently bring up sexual topics that was definitely not appropriate to bring up around 15, 16-year-olds, especially with him being like, I don't know, 20, 21 years old. He would even go as far as linking me several different porn and hentai videos throughout the time of me talking with him. Not only that, but he had an NSFW bot in his Discord server before he made it public, so when it was just a private server, his little circle of minors, and he would use this NSFW bot to spam different corn images, alongside all these 15-year-olds. He would also frequently call me dad and daddy, as well as the others, which I guess we all kind of just took as a joke at the time. You have to think this is someone who we looked up to at the time, we idolized, we thought was the coolest person in the world, so they couldn't really do any wrong in our eyes. I was definitely uncomfortable at being called daddy by a 20-year-old, and even just thinking about it now, it's just uncomfortable. This server later went public and became his official Discord server, but before it did, he had me and Lava spend multiple days scrubbing this Discord server clean of all of the N-words he had sent in it, as well as his friends, as well as deleting the NSFW channels and making sure no one could see that he was spamming corn to minors. This story is so much bigger and runs so much deeper than any of you really realize, so if you want to hear more and you want a part 2, let me know.
He also claims that Lava is a victim, but just simply does not want to reveal it, and suggests the real reason Lava doesn't really want to admit it is because he signed an NDA, which this person was also pressured into signing. Now, tons of the messages from these Discords have leaked, and some of them are just flat out gross. One of them where Kris says she is only 14 damn, sending links for Shadman, being referred to as the lolly god, rejecting the request to delete the NSFW channel knowing there were minors in it, doing sexual roleplay, and lots of more gross ass shit. Kris Tyson clearly has been committing some very disgusting behavior. Kris deleted all of their tweets at the time that this was coming out, possibly to hide their guilty behavior. Kris's own sister even called out their disgusting behavior. He told me that he got fully aroused when he secretly stole my female clothes and put them on. He's deluded and disturbed, and it's 100% a fetish. He's narcissistic, and professionals have told him he needs a full psych eval. Now, if your own sister comes forward and says something this intense, then It's very bad. Eventually, Kris did address the situation and announced their departure from MrBeast. I would like to apologize for any of my past behavior or comments if it hurt or offended anybody. Seeing recent events, we've mutually decided it's best I permanently step away from all things MrBeast and social media to focus on my family and mental health, while also still trying to deny any wrongdoing. I want to add, I never groomed anyone. The person who gets brought up in these accusations at LavaGS has vocally supported that they are false. Now, like I said before, this doesn't exactly prove that what Kris did wasn't wrong. Lava may have been genuinely manipulated into believing that Kris was simply innocent, and considering he later took back that statement, it seems like it was right. To lump these two factors together to create a narrative that my behavior extended bad, edgy jokes is disgusting and did not happen. In past years, I have learned that my old humor is not acceptable. I cannot change who I was, but I can continue to work on myself. Now, trying to push all of this off as bad, edgy jokes is not really a good excuse. Buying inappropriate artwork that is quite literally CP is not a joke. Meeting up with an underage kid in a secluded area is not a joke. Where is the joke in all of this? I don't want these accusations to impact the hundreds of people who worked at MrBeast, which is why I have stepped away. Now, Kris claims that it was a mutual agreement to leave MrBeast when it simply wasn't, because the very next day, Jimmy also addressed the allegations and claimed that Kris was fired. Over the last few days, I've become aware of the serious allegations of Ava Tyson's behavior online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I have been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all the facts. That said, I've seen enough online and taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with MrBeast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take further actions based on their findings. Now, this seems like a very reasonable way to respond. Fast to the situation, rightfully firing Kris and hiring an investigator to get all of the facts straight. However, people were skeptical to see just how much Jimmy truly knew. Was he really aware of Kris's disgusting behavior and simply just did not do anything about it, or did he really genuinely not know? Multiple former employees of MrBeast came forward stating that he secretly did know, including Jake the Viking. Now, Jake the Viking did leave the MrBeast crew on good terms, so it's very unlikely that he really did have some type of personal vendetta with Jimmy, although clearly he has a very strong dislike for Kris. Another former employee also claims that Jake is right, and Jimmy knew that Kris was a liability this entire time but never fired them because of the legal repercussions that could occur.
My name's Dawson. I worked at MrBeast from February to May of this year, 2024. Kris is the tip of the iceberg. And when Jake the Viking says MrBeast knew, yeah, MrBeast knew. I heard many times that Ava, Kris Tyson, is a major liability, but they can't get rid of her because she's already threatened legal action and she knows too much. And when all this information comes out about everything that she knew, everything other people know, I promise you on everything MrBeast has done. Amazon, if you can get your money back, get your money back.
Now, how accurate this is unsure. Jake the Viking left the group many years ago, and this Dawson person wasn't even there for half a year. However, they know better than most of us do. Now, one of the strongest points of evidence for this, though, is one of the leaked Discord messages, showing that MrBeast made a comment on Kris's schlong. Now, this is definitely not a good look. Did Jimmy know that people in the Discord were minors and just simply did not really acknowledge it or question it? I think it's very hard for many of us to believe that the YouTuber who has done the most amount of good for the world would actually let this happen. MrBeast has proven himself to be one of, if not maybe the most moral YouTuber on the planet. That doesn't really need to be argued here. It really is hard to believe that the same person who planted millions of trees, cleaned millions of pounds of trash from the ocean, and built water wells in Africa would let something so gross happen right behind his back. He often will lose money just to make the world a better place. Me personally, I find it hard to believe that he really would let this happen. Jimmy is strategically the most brand-friendly creator out there. He has no issue firing people even if they are his friends. Even with his oldest friend, I feel like if there really was something happening behind the scenes, Jimmy would do something about it. We don't know the whole story, but considering someone like Jimmy is extremely busy with some of the biggest projects to help make the world a better place, it's generally worth considering that he really did not know what was going on. After all, Jimmy is not the one who committed these acts. Kris is. Kris is the one who abused their power and talked to underage underage kids. The ones who came forward were very brave to do so. Now, Lava himself does not deserve any hate for defending Kris, even though soon after he would come forward and denounce his previous statement. But these kids are not really the only victims here. Kris betrayed a lot of people in these acts. Kris betrayed the trans community, a community that has fought hard for decades not to be labeled as pedophiles. He potentially betrayed Jimmy, his friend that gave him career, fame, and lots of money. The same person who stood up for Kris when the entire internet was against them. Even if Jimmy really is innocent, his brand will automatically look bad because of their association with Kris. But worst of all, Kris betrayed their child. The child that people accused of Kris neglecting is easily one of the biggest victims of this entire thing. Just like how Dr. Disrespect's daughter will have to suffer the consequences of her father's actions, Kris's son will have to suffer the consequences of their parents' actions. That child will forever be stained with the reputation of their parent being a predator. It's even weirder when you look at an older video of EDP calling Kris a pedo.
Holy shit, man. So my motherfucking main nigga, Kris Tyson, supports child porn. He's into that freak ass shit.
Kris will never recover from this, but what about Jimmy? Because right after the Kris scandal, tons and tons of new things were being thrown right at him. People were finding older videos of him using some very bad slurs, as well as him making a very weird comment about bad baby.
Yeah, so that just shows what.
Let's be real. You want to put your dick in it?
I mean, it's
probably not.
Enjoying someone and putting your dick in someone is a whole different story.
Now, these things could easily be dismissed as Jimmy just being young and stupid and not really knowing what he was saying at the time, but each day it was starting to get more and more serious. Now, recently, MrBeast announced a game show that he is doing with Amazon Prime. He has hyped this up to be the one-all be-all of his projects. Not much is known, but the prize money is $5 million. However, right around the time of the Kris allegations, lots of reports of people getting injured on set for this show also came forward too. There were reports of people having broken bones, injuries, passing out from dehydration, and more. There's one report of someone who did not receive their medication within 24 hours and suffered a seizure because of it, and there was not much medical staff on deck to help. Now, some of these are not fully confirmed, and considering almost all of the contestants had to sign NDAs, it's very unlikely that we will see first-hand reports come soon. And if that wasn't bad enough, a former MrBeast employee came forward and made an hour-long video talking about him being a fraud. Now, I'll give a summary of it because there's quite a lot to unpack with this. It was posted around the Kris allegations, but that had nothing to do with this. But this was the same person who claims that Jimmy did know about Kris's deep, dark intentions. In the video, he claims that MrBeast fakes his videos, fakes his giveaways, and also accuses him of some other things as well. Now, in his video, he makes points that are both good and bad. One of his main points being that MrBeast constantly is casting people that he is already associated with. However, this isn't necessarily evidence that his videos are faked. Yes, MrBeast probably already knows these people, hence why he picked them for very certain contests. Jimmy has stated in the past it's actually pretty hard to find people who will act very authentic and comfortable on camera, and when they act too emotionless and win a big prize, ironically people will think the video is fake when it's not. Plus, with some of these types of challenges, you want to find people who have lots of personality so that they can make the video entertaining. That's the point of the video. Now, one of the people who was in 2 of MrBeast's videos was TikToker B Huncho, who does skits. It makes sense that MrBeast would cast someone who already has a pretty decent presence online because he knows that they're going to be comfortable on camera. That's not necessarily proof that it's fake. It's also why he has someone like Mac who works so much with Airac. Dawson tries to make the point that Mac didn't specifically state that he was working on MrBeast's videos around the time he was, and therefore it was fake. However, this doesn't really make any sense either. MrBeast definitely has people sign NDAs for his competitions, so there's no way that Mac was allowed to say that he was working for MrBeast at the time, and if Mac is very smart, he would not completely screw himself over by doing that. He also tries to argue that MrBeast used CGI in some of his videos and therefore it's fake too, when Jimmy obviously puts it there for dramatic effect, not to make it look real. Anyone with common sense who sees this would know it's CGI and not legit. His other main point is that Jimmy hosts lots of fake giveaways and illegal lotteries on his channel, such as when Jimmy claimed to have purchased $1 million worth of smartphones and then gave them to random subscribers. He also claims that when MrBeast hosted a live stream signing shirts for 40 million subscribers that he was randomly giving out prizes throughout the live stream, yet didn't really seem to deliver some of those prizes. Some of these prizes were iPhones, PlayStations, money, etc. And since MrBeast did not deliver, this makes it a fake lottery. He also claims that MrBeast held a very similar live stream not too long later and also claimed that there was no purchase necessary to win any of the prizes. Yet throughout the stream, in order to win a prize, you had to buy a shirt. And there are also claims that those who supposedly won their prizes never actually received them. And there's also others, but this was one of the main points that he delivered. Unfortunately, all of those live streams that he talked about have been archived or removed. There are also elements of this in his Feastable brand, which seems to promote just straight up gambling. Now, how true some of this is or how much of a point he makes is not really for certain. This guy worked for MrBeast, but he did not work directly on any of the things that he is actually talking about in this video. He doesn't actually reveal anything that he personally witnessed as an employee, maybe for NDA reasons, maybe because he doesn't really have any actual insider information. Now, another one of MrBeast's employees came forward and responded to this video, debunking almost every single thing. We'll call him Chucky because that's his name on Twitter. Now, according to Chucky, Dawson was hired for a 90-day trial to work on MrBeast, but it was ended early due to erratic behavior. I wonder what that means. He debunks most of the points made in the video. The first one being that you won't get in a MrBeast video unless you have close ties to MrBeast himself. He claims that Jimmy doesn't personally know that many people, which is very likely. There are hundreds of people in these videos sometimes, so I highly doubt Jimmy has that many friends. But you could argue that those contestants are people that know MrBeast. Someone under this thread confirmed that they were a random contestant in a MrBeast video and had no actual close affiliation to MrBeast at all. There was even an instance where someone came forward on Twitter and claimed that they frequently hooked up with Kris because they thought they could get a chance at being in a MrBeast video, but then soon found out that Kris actually had no ability to get people in a video at all. But what about the boys versus girl video where some of the girls were MrBeast employees and even his own girlfriend was in it? Well, this was a last-minute decision on the MrBeast team because apparently some of the people tested positive for COVID. And you can't just halt an entire video production over 3 people being gone. So this disproves a decent amount of Dawson's claims. Dawson claimed in the video that the island that MrBeast purchased for $1 actually didn't cost $1. Chucky debunked this by claiming you can quite literally just Google MrBeast purchasing an island in the Outer Banks for $1, and if you do Google it, you actually will see proof of that. In Dawson's video, he claims that the revenge story between 42 and 48 was completely fake in the video and altered in posts. His main point being that at the part when 42 screams that he's getting out, there's no way 58 could have heard him because he was all the way across the room. Chucky debunked this by saying that you could definitely easily hear him across the room, and you probably could. It's not that big of a room. Chucky also confirmed that 42 and 58 genuinely did not like each other and talked about that on streams after the video. Now, in response to the giveaways being fake, Chucky confirmed that all of them are real. He claims that they really did spend $1 million on Samsung iPhones to give away to random subscribers and that he works hands-on with these giveaways and personally connects to the winners. Another person responded showing proof of the fact that he was the 5 million subscriber on MrBeast's channel and was the winner of one of his giveaways. Chucky ends it off by saying that Jimmy is a good person and Dawson is a hypocrite by leaving this video up. Now, Dawson was quick to argue with some counter arguments, but not really with a lot of evidence here. In terms of faking the video, Dawson claims that MrBeast actually does really know a lot more people than Chucky's really estimating. In Dawson's video, he made the point that when MrBeast was doing his Chocolate Factory giveaway and giving golden tickets to people who could enter his video, one of the people that won this giveaway was a very large YouTuber. Admittedly, this is very coincidental. He also pointed out that the island that was purchased for $1 actually costed $28 because of tax. Which might be true, but like, who gives a shit, really? Dawson also brought up that in the age 1 to 100 video, that one of 42's timers in his box did not match the timer that was being displayed on the video, which you can see in Kai Cenat's reaction video. And this seemed to be edited or altered out in the actual video on Jimmy's channel. This also was suspicious, and Chucky did not respond to that. These are solid points, however, all of Dawson's other claims of videos being rigged can easily be debunked by what Chucky said or the points that I made earlier. Is Dawson really exposing the secrets of MrBeast, or is he just a bitter ex-worker that is clout chasing? Is Chucky giving an honest perspective, or is he just simply trying to cover his own ass and keep a good job? I mean, how many people would really call out the biggest creator if they had the opportunity opportunity to work with him. Most people would definitely not. It's a very harsh reality. However, this seems to be coming from a person who has worked very closely with MrBeast for many, many years, and even being the co-founder of MrBeast's website ViewStats. If we're going to choose to believe someone, it makes more sense to believe the person who has more hands-on and direct experience with Jimmy for years, rather than the person who barely even worked on the team for a month. Chucky actually worked on all of the videos that he was talking about. Dawson did not work on any of them. Dawson does have some very legit criticism on these giveaways, but it's not proof of anything. It's all just speculation. 2 weeks later, Dawson posted another video. I worked for MrBeast, he's a sociopath. In this video, he brought on another ex-worker who worked for MrBeast from 2019 to 2020 as a writer, Jake Webble. At the time, Jake actually left the MrBeast crew on his own terms because he felt like there were creative differences and he wanted to pursue stand-up full-time.
What I've been doing since I left MrBeast was I've been going balls deep into stand-up lately, okay, because things are opening back up, people are getting vaccinated.
He even posted a video on his own channel 3 years ago explaining all of this, and he claims that he was not on bad terms with MrBeast at all.
I thought you don't work at MrBeast anymore. I don't. I'm still friends with all those guys. I just don't have insurance.
However, in Dawson's video, Jake claims that he was actually in one of MrBeast's challenges, but it was never uploaded because it was a complete disaster. The challenge was to stay in a room for 30 days, and every day that he stayed, he would get $10,000, and by the end of it, he would get $300,000 in total. If that sounds familiar, that's because MrBeast did do the same video, but with a different contestant on his channel. And watching the actual video, it seems like it went completely fine for the real contestant, but for Jake, it was total hell. Jake claims that it was difficult for him to sleep because they always kept the lights on so that they could get time-lapse shots. There was no access to clocks to get the time, there was no access to the sun, and he was never able to get full darkness to fully sleep.
It got to a point where, like, they weren't turning the lights off. You know, I asked them, I said, can we have, like, nighttime hours? You know? And they said no, because it would fuck up the time-lapse shots. The time-lapse are what? Are you sleeping? Are you not sleeping? Yeah, one of the things was you got to take away your clocks. So you didn't know what time it was. Okay, I got no access to sun. I got no access to clock. I don't know, like...
In the video, they claim that this tiptoes into the realm of a war crime because sleep deprivation goes against the Geneva Convention agreement.
That's a war crime. We're not allowed to do that to terrorists. 24 hours breaking the Geneva Convention, I guess, is what we're doing.
Even though that's a tad bit of an exaggeration because Jake was not a prisoner, and he wasn't being held against his will, and the intention wasn't to keep him sleep deprived. For the video, the crew gave him melatonin to help him sleep, but it didn't really do much.
So, you know, they're giving me, you know, melatonin, you know, it's not helping.
Jake felt that he had to act authentic and genuine while being thankful for all the money and getting these very, very bland scripted lines to say. At one point, MrBeast offered Jake $10,000 to run a marathon on a treadmill. A marathon is 26.2 miles, by the way. It's not easy work and something that you have to train for. Jake did not want to do it, but he felt he had no choice.
He goes, you're gonna run a marathon. You're gonna do the 22.6K, whatever it is, and you're gonna do it on that treadmill over there.
Lots of these side challenges is what makes the MrBeast video so engaging. So Jake felt that if he said no to this challenge, then the video would get boring and they would have wasted tons of money because the video wasn't entertaining enough to post.
There was so much pressure to just do it, just do the thing, you know? And if I refuse, it's just, that's the whole video. I guess the budget's, you know, so much money up in flames because Jake said he wouldn't want to do the thing. And so I wanted to be a good sport, and I wanted to get the boost, and I wanted the cash, and so I started running at 12.
After doing the treadmill challenge, he suffered major blisters that made it difficult to walk, and he suffered extreme mental turmoil from doing the challenge.
Oh, the blisters I had on my feet were like, you wouldn't believe, just all over, just these big red. I couldn't walk. My muscles were like just the lactic acid.
He eventually quit after 23 days because of the mental damage, but he didn't get the full 300K. However, he did keep the 100K that he got from doing all of the mini challenges.
And that's when I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I did not get the 300K. What I got, he goes, think of it this way. At least you get to keep what you earned. You know, you were in there for XYZ days. You did XYZ challenges, so you got 100,000 some change, you know?
From his experience, it sounded pretty bad and irresponsible on the MrBeast crew. Having someone where they can't get full sleep is unsafe. But at the end of the day, you could still argue that Jake had the decision to say no. The power was still in his hands to leave at any point. Jake was clearly not in the mental headspace to take on such a heavy challenge that would be so damaging to his mental. We may not be seeing both sides of the story here, but if this is true, this is extremely irresponsible on Jimmy's part. There's tons and tons of research that talk about the damaging effects of solitary confinement, which is basically what this guy was going through. And in terms of him not getting the 300k, it does depend on the actual agreement for the video. If the challenge was that Jake had to stay in for all 30 days in order to receive the 300k, then Jimmy was sticking to his word. But if Jake was promised $10,000 a day for the time that he spent and was not paid in full, then that would be an issue. Now, from the released version of the video, it seems that Jimmy did learn from his mistakes. He dimmed the lights for nighttime, did not present unreasonable challenges, and gave him $10,000 for the day that he spent there, even though he didn't spend all 30 days in the room. Again, we're only hearing one side of the story, but this is not a good look. It could have been a bad experience that was not particularly on anyone's fault due to it being so unpredictably complicated. Or it could have been a genuine lack on Jimmy's part. Dawson pointed out other things that were very suspicious too, such as a segment from an internal document from MrBeast's production team titled "No Does Not Mean No," which is a terrible title alone, but it basically needs that if you need a certain someone or something for a video, like a store or a piece of land, that you try and use the MrBeast influence to get it done, or try and find interconnections. This type of attitude is not a good look out of context. He also pointed out another instance where MrBeast did not clean debris from one of his other videos too. But the biggest piece of info that was revealed from this entire thing was that MrBeast had a registered sex offender working on his team. This person was accused of doing some disgusting things to a child that was between the ages of 1 to 11.
From what I hear, I can't confirm or deny, from what I hear, he's on the registry for doing some not great stuff to some underage people. And they knew that.
This person was even in a MrBeast video but wore a mask to hide his identity. And apparently this man's nickname was Delaware because he was not allowed to enter Delaware. This is where it gets pretty serious. Having a registered sex offender on your team is a terrible thing to have. And if you didn't know, how did you not find out? It shows that he doesn't do a lot of background checks for his people. Either situation is not good. Dawson and Jake did not name who the person was, nor did they say the specific crime that occurred. But after the video came out, Jake the Viking actually confirmed everything about this person. Jake confessed that Delaware was his brother-in-law, and when he was 21, a 16-year-old girl accused him and others of SA when she was 11, and he took a plea deal. There was no jail time, but he still had to register. He also dismissed that he's not allowed in Delaware, he just simply is from there. Delaware was hired before Jake and was actually the reason Jake got a job in the first place. Before being hired, Delaware sat down with Jimmy and his mom to explain everything. Jimmy did know about this, but Delaware was registered in 2010 and was hired in 2017 or 2018. His job was a behind-the-scenes manager, and he wore a mask in the videos because of the charges. But the charges are set to be dropped this fall. Jake believes that Delaware is innocent and did nothing wrong. Now, Delaware's official file was found pretty soon, and people were able to confirm these details. Now, I'm going to hide his face and his personal info for privacy reasons because I don't think it would be right to leak all of that. But the specific crime that he had to register for was 4th-degree R-wording an 11-year-old when he was 16. And the rest of the details that Jake claims are true according to the document. Now, 4th-degree R-wording is the least common and least serious R-wording offense in the legal system, but is still very serious. We may not know the details of the whole thing, but Jimmy still knowingly hired a registered offender onto his team. Again, maybe we don't know the whole story. Maybe this man was innocent and simply just did not have enough evidence to prove that he was not guilty. Maybe we really don't know what's going on and are just seeing things terribly, terribly out of context. But this is where it gets pretty hard to defend Jimmy, because what this man did sounds extremely disgusting on paper. This isn't just a casual crime that he committed. This is a very harrowing act that the court system believes that he is guilty of, and it cannot be ignored. Now, all of these videos and accusations have already done quite a lot to MrBeast's reputation and raised a lot of eyebrows. And this wouldn't have been so bad if Jimmy just came forward and responded to everything in some type of way. After all, if this is all misconstrued, then he should have no problem denying everything, right? Well, Jimmy's actions say different.
Because after Dawson posted this video on his YouTube, the MrBeast team sent him a cease and desist letter claiming that he violated NDA terms and said untrue statements. This is a terrible look. Rather than proving his innocence, Jimmy seems to be trying to intimidate his workers into not talking about him. Because if this wasn't true, why send the letter? And like I said before, Dawson didn't particularly leak any info. A lot of the things that he said were already publicly available. With his second video though, I'm not as sure about that. But Dawson claims that he took very careful steps to make sure that he did not violate any NDA agreements. Maybe he did violate some NDA terms, but regardless, it does not look good doing this. And now it's starting to have an actual effect on MrBeast's brand. The new video that he posted got over 2 million dislikes. And on the video, Jimmy seems to have been deleting comments that are calling him out on the situation. If you go on the video right now, you will not find a single comment that is talking about the matter, and if you do find one, it's not going to last very long. Deleting comments, sending cease and desist letters, these are not actions of an innocent man. Only someone who has something to hide would actually do this. Now, how will all this actually affect MrBeast's career in the long run? Is this the end of his brand and the start of his downfall? Chances are, probably not. Now, much of these do look bad. 2 members that were pedos, illegal lotteries, possibly faking videos. All of this stuff coming out in like weeks of each other is terrible for Jimmy. There's no doubt about that. It's hard to believe that someone who has done so much good for the world and through his videos would let something so crazy happen. Now, the real factor of determination are just how true these accusations are and how well he responds to them. Now, if many of these crimes are not true and all of these things are just really exaggerated truths that sound terrible out of context, then Jimmy really only has to do one thing, just simply keep going. If MrBeast is as genuine as he claims, and he will be totally fine in the long run by proving so through his actions. He'll just simply keep posting content that's not fake and just keep doing good stuff for the world and avoiding as much legal trouble as possible. Now, if these claims are true and it's more serious than we think, then it's a different story. But if he learns from these issues and doesn't make those mistakes again, then his brand will be completely fine. He is the biggest YouTuber in the world. The numbers speak for themselves. You don't just become the biggest YouTuber in the world without getting into some type of trouble. It's inevitable. He went a long time without getting into serious trauma, so if anything, it actually seems like overdue. And just like most drama, it passes. His audience is mostly children who probably don't even care about that type of stuff anyway. His content is bigger than life, and eventually it will just pass like most controversy. These issues are pretty serious, but not to the point where it's going to bring down his entire brand. The only way it could do that is if much of the bigger things were fabricated. If it came out that most of his charitable acts or lots of his bigger videos were fake, then that would be a much bigger story. Because those are the things that have made MrBeast into MrBeast. These issues that he's being accused of are only smaller parts in his giant vehicle for success. But with the current way that he's responding to issues, it doesn't look very good. If Jimmy does try to keep denying the issues at hand here, then it may be a different story. At this point now, people have been starting to question his entire persona, not just small aspects. Is Jimmy going to handle these issues properly and win back the people, or are we slowly witnessing the downfall of the biggest YouTuber of all time? Time will tell.